Waiting, we are ready to start this special joint meeting of the City Council, successor agency to the redevelopment agency, and all those listed on our agenda this July 8th, 2021 at 6:34 p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Sure. Councilmember Nava,
Here.
Councilmember Corona,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Here.
Councilmember Rogers,
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Here. Thank you. And just to remind everybody, for those who are joining us on Zoom, if you would like to make a public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the participants button at the bottom of your screen. A list of participants will appear at the right side of the screen. At the bottom of this list, please click on the gray raised hand button. This will signal to the host that you would like to provide public comment, and you'll be added to the list. If you are using Zoom on your smartphone, tap your screen. A new screen will pop up with the list of participants. Look for the raised hand button on the screen. And those who are calling in using your phone, simply dial or push *9. Okay. We did have, yeah, but we don't have, where does it show our, the closed session? All right, let's go ahead and start with our Pledge of Allegiance first. Item number 3, which will be led by Councilwoman Nava.
Please rise. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we did have closed session today. Mr. Dunn, if you make a comment on that, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good catch. The council met in closed session prior to this open session to discuss the 2 items of litigation noted on the agenda, and no reportable action was taken tonight.
Thank you. Okay, item 4 is our presentation announcements. We do have a slip up on our agenda. There is one I'm sneaking in. It's Bryce Johnson from the Riverside County Transportation Commission. He just has a quick, brief update on the Placencia interchange. So Bryce, I know you're expected to go on later, but you got the floor, sir.
So thank you very much. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Vargas and council members. Thank you for allowing us this time during this period to be able to give you an update of the I-215 Placencia Interchange project. As you said, my name is Bryce Johnston. I'm the construction manager for Riverside County Transportation Commission. And we are pleased to have an excellent partnership with Stuart and his staff, as well as Caltrans in the County of Riverside while we're delivering this project. Construction began in August of 2020, and we currently remain on schedule to open the interchange in the summer of 2022. We are approaching a key milestone, which is the full closure of Placencia Avenue Bridge for approximately 10 months. We expect to close the Placencia Avenue on or about July 20th of this year. RCTC did speak with City Council back in December 11th of 2018 about this closure. This closure will allow our crews to demolish the existing bridge and build a wider bridge over I-215. Full closures of I-215 will also be needed during the bridge demolition and to place false work to build the new bridge. This bridge, the allowance of this bridge closure reduces the Placencia interchange construction schedule by about 6 months, and it allows RCTC to complete the project in 2 years instead of the original 2.5 years that was anticipated. The full closure also creates a safer working condition for our crews, and it separates passenger vehicles from our construction zone. Several detours have been approved for the bridge closure. Motorists should use Ramona Expressway to the north, Nuevo Road to the south, Harville Avenue west of I-215, and Indian Avenue east of I-215. Clearly marked detour signs will be placed along the detour routes to help guide the traveling public. To prepare for the bridge closure, we are speaking to you tonight and spoke to the Meade Valley Municipal Advisory Council last night. We will be issuing construction updates with a detour map by email, posting information to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, providing a short video about the closure, placing information on our website, delivering notice to area homes and businesses, sending news releases, and notifying emergency responders. Communications will be in both English and Spanish. And also, in addition, Cheryl Donahue is on the call with us, who is our public outreach, if you have specific questions for public outreach. On a special note, we would like to recognize Valverde Elementary School, which is located along the detour route of Indian Avenue. Our public outreach team will be notifying school administrators and the Riverside County Sheriff's Departments about the closure and address any traffic concerns that may arise along Indian Avenue. Materials will be provided to the school to share with students, parents, and staff once classes resume on August 9th, as we understand it. Finally, as always, construction schedules are subject to change. There could be weather or other days that impacts us. So please refer to our website at rctc.org/Placentia, or we have a helpline, 657-291-5550 for our latest information. Or you can contact me directly at RCTC or Cheryl Donahue, our public outreach. So that's all I had kind of prepared to say. And I'd like to reiterate how wonderful it's been to work with Stuart and his staff, and that we've all been working together really well.
Is he paying for you to say that?
Well, we'll keep that.
Right?
No, he did not.
As always, Bryce, thank you very much for the update. It's very, very much needed to hear what's going on. And I'm not sure if I did not hear it right, but I do sit on the commission, obviously you know that. Are we still on target for May 22 for completion date?
That is anticipated, yes.
Okay, well, if you can move that up for about 3 months, would be great.
Okay.
Council, anybody have any questions for Bryce? I have a question. Hang on, Bryce.
Yes. How long do you anticipate the complete closure of the I-215 in terms of days or even weeks?
I'm sorry, your voice faded out and I was not able to
Yes.
hear
In
that.
terms of the closure of the I-215, how long do you anticipate the closure to be to last for?
The I-215 closures are strictly only for the bridge work. So it's usually just overnight closures in order for us to do false work assembly and false work removal, so that when we widen the bridge. So there is no long-term duration of the I-215, just specifically nighttime when we do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? I don't see anybody in the queue. Okay, Bryce, thank you very much. You're off the hook.
All right, appreciate the time.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, 4A is a presentation proclamation designating July 16, 2021 as Community Services Professionals Days. This item will be introduced by Director of Community Services, Sabrina Chavez.
What I'd like to present before you is a proclamation for Community Services Professionals Day. But before that, just want to introduce to you and announce to the public who's watching tonight, July is Parks and Recreation Month. So this month, we're highlighting some events for our community. And some of these events include the summer programs, evening hikes, park reservations, movies in the park, our Junior Master Gardener program, and our Senior Walking Club. So for more information, our residents can contact the city, can look up on the website, our cityofparis.org, Facebook, or call 951-943-6603. New this year, the National Parks and Recreation Association has released an announcement encouraging all cities to proclaim Community Services Professionals Day. And we'd like to take that opportunity and propose that and proclaim July 16th as Community Services Professionals Day. So we'd like to honor all our dedicated professionals in the field and commend them for their hard work. They work tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure that all our events, our programs, our projects and services are executed successfully. Especially throughout this past year during the pandemic, the service, amount of service and that they worked is just it's very commendable. They've gone above and beyond to represent the city and provide these services to our community. So I can't be more proud than what I already am. Before you, so July 16th, each year we'd recognize our department. We'll be hosting a lunch for them, and this will be done every year to commend their hard work throughout the year. Honorable Mayor and the City Council, when you're ready, we do have a lovely proclamation. I'd like to invite some staff up here to take a picture, but when you're ready, when you are.
Yeah, I'm going to read off, it's community services, you're a viable entity to our community, as well as everybody else, but you are the ones that are reaching out to our anywhere from toddlers up to seniors, so I think it's important for me to read off this entire proclamation. Then at that point, I will ask council for any of their comments. This way we take care of all the commenting up here, then we'll come downstairs here and take a picture with the group that's here. Do you want to identify who's here now? Is there a whole bunch?
Yes, there's quite a few.
They're important.
Yes.
Let us know who's here.
Sure. We have over here to my left Arsenio Ramirez, Community Services Manager, Juan Rodriguez, our Recreation Coordinator, Cynthia Limes, our Recreation Supervisor, Crystal Lopez, Public Health Supervisor, Crystal Drever, our Recreation Coordinator, and we did get a new hire, but she's our Program Aide assisting with recreation leaders. Let me see over here. We do over here to our right, we have Lou. Lou is our recreation leader. Jessica Galloway, a project coordinator. Then I believe that's it. Yes, that's it for tonight.
Jessica is what?
Jessica
Program-
Galloway, she assists with our CIP team.
Got it, okay. Okay, so let me read out this proclamation. Designation of July 16th as Community Services Professional Day. Whereas the City of Paris City Council recognizes the community services field as a diverse and comprehensive system that improves personal, social, environmental, economic, and public health. And whereas the City Council recognizes the importance and benefits of park and recreation services that enrich the lives of its citizens and help make the community a desirable place to live, work, and visit. And whereas the City Council acknowledges the vital benefits of public health in the city design, policy, and programming that support sustainable practices to achieve an equitable built environment that cultivate a healthy, thriving, and inclusive community. And whereas the City Council supports the skilled work of community services professionals to strengthen community cohesion and resiliency, connect people with nature and each other, and provide and promote opportunities for healthful living, social equity, and environmental sustainability. And whereas the City Council values the essential services that community services professionals and volunteers perform to provide recreational and developmental enrichment for our children, youth, adults, and older adults. Not sure what they mean by that one. And, yeah. They ruined it. I was doing so well. And to ensure our parks and recreational spaces and clean, safe, inclusive, welcoming, and ready to use. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Paris City Council does hereby proclaim July 16th as Community Services Professionals Day in the City of Paris, adopted today, July 8th, 2021. So with that, I'm going to open up the floor to our council. If anybody wants to make comments before we step down for a photo, I have Maricela Nava, Councilwoman Nava.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to take the opportunity to truly thank our Community Services Department based on the events that you've had to do online and whatnot. And now, as we gear up to basically serve our communities face to face again, we see how eager they are to come out and be a part of it. So thank you all for what you do. You're oftentimes the face of the city, and we appreciate what you do day in and day out. And as council, don't exactly know how much you work and how tirelessly you do. You come in for weekends, late nights, and whatnot, and we just truly appreciate you. And we couldn't do what we do without your help and your support. So thank you all so much.
Okay, great. I don't see anybody on the queue. Councilman Corona?
Okay. You know what? You did such a great job. But I've had a good time getting to know several of you, and you all are very dedicated to our community as a whole. I speak to people that live in our city, and they oftentimes tell me what a great job and for the different events, whether it's a hike or for the kids or for the seniors. It's just a great job that you are doing. So I'm sure the entire community is very thankful for all the work you do. Especially the last year, it was very hard to really interact with the community. But I know in the following year, it's going to be more people are going to be wanting to come out, and I know you guys are going to be more than up to the task to meet all their expectations. But thank you for all you guys do.
Councilwoman Rogers?
I just want to thank you all for your flexibility over the last year. It's been very challenging. You've adapted to all of those challenges like true professionals, and it really has made a difference for our city. You going to virtual functions and doing things in a different manner, and you show just how adaptable you can be in a time of crisis. And we're very proud of you, and I just want to say thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I want to echo the sentiments of my colleagues and say thank you everyone for community services for your hard work and dedication over the last few years, especially the last year. And I think the proclamation speaks for itself in terms of your dedication, your commitment, and just a general overall great job you're doing representing the city of Paris and serving the city of Paris. Thank you.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Mayor Pro Tem hit it on the door. This proclamation really outlines what you do for our communities, and for that we are forever grateful. It's not just City of Paris. We get people from our neighboring cities coming to our events because you guys put on such a great show, and everything that you do and your professionalism, and it's spot on. So thank you for everything you do, and I'm glad that you're all back to work now and we can get everything else fully opening, and so we can get our seniors back in play so they can stop calling us, especially my men, so they can get their billiard room open. Okay, we're going to step down. We'll do a photo op. And who's accepting this? Sabrina, where are you? Oh. We're going to come down, guys, to the center here. We're gonna be facing the front. Come on, you come on this side.
Claire?
No, huh?
Congratulations, everybody. Well deserved. Well deserved.
Yeah, for real. What's up, Lou? Hey, I'm not sure what the last one. Oh, it is? Are you training? Oh, you're not? I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Okay, item 5 is our consent calendar. Consent calendars are items normally enacted in one motion. The mayor or city council may remove a consent calendar item for separate action. Public comment will be allowed and limited to 3 minutes. Council, anybody want to pull anything or comment on anything before we entertain a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Corona, second by Councilwoman Nava. Please call the vote.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Councilmember Corona?
Yes, sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 6, public hearing. 6A is a consideration to adopt the first reading of ordinance number next in order, placing CR&R delinquent residential refuge collection charges on property tax rolls. The first reading of ordinance number next in order is entitled, An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Paris, County of Riverside, State of California, amending section 7.16.080 of the Paris Municipal Code to authorize the Riverside County Tax Collector to place delinquent residential refuse collection charges on the property tax rolls. And this will be introduced by our Director of Finance, Mr. Ernie Reyna.
So for this item, we do have Mr. Alex Brickovich of CR&R here, and he's got a short presentation he's going to be displaying for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brickovich.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Alex Brickovich with CR&R. Tonight, I am here to just briefly go over what we've discussed in the past in regards to having CR&R do all the billing for residential. So I'm going to do a quick overview of where we're at. Quick agenda. I'm just going to go over how we got here, the residential billing, the non-payment process, as well as the necessary next steps. So how we got here. As you know, back in January of this year, EMWD notified us that they would no longer be doing the trash billing on the water bills. That triggered a bunch of calls, meetings, discussions in regards to what we do next. About 80% of the Paris residential, Paris residents are currently billed through EMWD water bills, and about 20% of the Paris residents are billed through the city's billing. City Council provided direction to have CR&R do all the residential billing. And CR&R, the city, and EMWD have been working behind the scenes to transfer files and customer information to CR&R's billing system. That's been an ongoing process for the better part of the last 4 or 5 months now. Residents will be billed by CR&R effective August 1, 2021. Management of delinquent accounts. Due to health and safety requirements, CR&R may not discontinue residential trash and recycling collection services regardless of payment status. As a result of this requirement, CR&R will need to have a process by which to collect delinquent accounts through the tax roll, and we will need to have an ordinance and contract modifications. In terms of the residential billing and the billing procedures, CR&R will start billing residential customers starting August 1, 2021. The first invoice will be for the months of August, September, and October. As I mentioned earlier, we bill 3 months in advance. Customers should receive their first CR&R invoice between the 1st and the 10th of August. Customer notifications will be coming from EMWD, the city, and CR&R out to inform all the customers of this billing change. CR&R's notification will be included with our first invoice. EMWD, we have a call coming up, I believe it's next week, if I'm not mistaken, Ernie. I think we're planning on having EMWD send their notification out to their customers either next week or the week after. And then the city will be sending out their notification shortly thereafter. So all customers will be notified prior to August 1st of the change. And then when they get their first invoice from us, there'll be an extensive explanation of what's going on. All agencies will work through the first few months if customers have any concerns about the transition, the payments, et cetera. As I mentioned earlier, in the year, if there is an issue with regards to the first 3 months that we bill in advance, and then there's the 2 months that EMWD bills in arrears, the city bills 1 month in arrears, we'll be more than happy to work with each customer on an individual basis if there's an issue with that. So in terms of the non-payment process, and that's what we're here about tonight, quarterly billings will be mailed out during the first week of the billing month. So for Paris, that would be February, May, August, and November of each year. 35-day past due notices. These are tax roll specific letters that will be sent out to the account name and holder and their billing address if payment has not been received. After 90 days past due, 1 quarter behind, tax roll specific letter is sent to the property owner and their mailing address if different from the account name holder, as well as to the account name holder and address. This happens every quarter if the account stays delinquent. During the month of June each year, a 30-day public hearing notice will be mailed out to all delinquent accounts with a specific due date to pay the delinquent balance to avoid tax roll for the property owner, and we'll be sending that out to their mailing address. It's an annual process, and every year what will happen is those folks that have not paid or have an unpaid delinquent balance on their account will be notified. There'll be a public hearing here at City Hall, and I will tell you right now what will happen. You will get usually landlords who have tenants that have not been watching their tenants, and you will get them coming in here upset because they will say they were never notified. But what's interesting is they were notified on that last letter that said, now you owe us $300 or $400, whatever the case may be. So we see this every time we do this, in every city we do this. But that's unfortunately part of this process. We use ownership records that are obtained from public records for these notices. And as I said earlier, it's important to note, property owners are ultimately responsible for the trash bill, not the tenants. So we always encourage property owners, if they have rental units in the city, to put the cost of trash collection into their monthly rent and then have the invoice go to the property owner. So there's no surprises for anybody at the end of the year. Highly, highly encourage that. And that will be going out after the first quarter of us doing the billing to all property owners. So they're all notified well in advance. But I gotta tell you right up front, that's gonna be the biggest issue we're gonna have every year. So next steps. Tonight is the first reading of the ordinance. We're also going to do a brief contract amendment, which your city attorney has already taken a look at. That'll be coming up shortly. We'll complete the account transition to CR&R, send out notices to all the customers. All agencies will do that, as I said earlier. And we will begin billing effective October 1, 2021. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council, anybody have any questions? So I'm gonna get my screen back. Well, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When you have this hearing, is each property owner, are they gonna be all looped into one motion, or are we gonna have to have a hearing for each individual property owner?
Yeah, great question. So what'll happen is at the end of the year, we will submit to the city a list of all the delinquent accounts. You will take action at that meeting to submit that list to the county. So it'll all come in one motion.
Okay.
You won't have to do that
So we'll have
separately.
one motion, but we could have many public
Yeah,
speakers.
yeah. And
Got it.
what'll happen is, we will try to reach out to all the delinquent accounts between that time that the notice is sent out in June. We have until August to submit the final list to the county. A lot of times what happens, people will come in and they'll pay it off, and then they get taken off the list. So there's a process involved there that we work through with each individual customer. We have folks completely dedicated just to this process, and that's all they do. So I'm sure that there will be those, especially the first few years of the process.
Thank you. Councilwoman Alva?
Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
So I had a question regarding your billing. So you bill quarterly, and after one bill of non-payment, it automatically, residents would get on that list of rolling over to the property taxes?
No. So what'll happen is they'll get like a friendly reminder that your bill is past due. Nobody gets put on tax roll until the end of the year, until
Okay.
June of the following year.
Okay.
So, no, nobody will be placed on tax roll at any time until the end of the year if they haven't paid, and they have until August to pay it. So we try to work with each one of those individual customers to find a solution to whatever the issue may be. But no, nobody gets put on the tax roll until the end.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Your first bill will start August
Yes, ma'am.
for the 3 months, August, September, and October.
Yes, ma'am.
For the customers that are billed through Eastern Municipal Water District, the last month that they will be billed will be July,
Correct.
but they bill in the rears.
Correct.
So they may not get that bill from Eastern until August. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So then the customer might possibly have a bill from Eastern the same time they have the bill from yours.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where we have to work with each individual customer if there's an issue there in
Okay.
regards to payment.
All right. And they just have to call and make partial payments or something?
Yeah, we
until-
work out whatever needs to be worked out in that situation.
Okay. Because that could be somewhat confusing because
Sure.
on your August bill, you're going to see a charge
Yeah.
for trash, and then you're going to have the August 1st bill from you for 3 months' worth of trash.
Right, and the letter being sent out by EMWD
And all that?
addresses that.
Okay.
And I'm sure that the city letter will address that issue as well, because it is a little bit confusing. That's why I was saying up front a few months ago, the transition gets a little messy
Yeah,
sometimes.
if I get 2 bills for trash in 1 month, I'm like, somebody made a mistake here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't-
it is a
I
little
didn't
bit.
dump that much trash.
Yeah. The first quarter is a little bumpy, let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's why I wanted to clarify
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
just to let people know that they can contact you.
Yes,
And have some help for the first transition period until they're into the cycle.
absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Councilman Corona?
Yes. So for the customers who have auto pay like myself with the MWD, now I'm gonna have to set up a different auto pay for CRNR.
Right, and the auto pay instructions will come with our first invoice on how to do that. The letter outlines how to sign up for auto pay with CR&R.
Okay, thank you.
So I do have one more, because I have a second trash can. I'm right now getting billed separately by
Right.
CR&R for that second receptacle
Right.
every 3 months. So
Right.
will that tie in now to our regular billing? We won't have two
Yes.
separate?
Correct.
Good.
Correct.
All right. I don't see nobody else on the screen, so we're good to go. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
I have one green, one regular trash, and one gray, and I asked for a second regular trash can.
Second black one.
Yeah, I have 7 people in my house,
Start putting your
and 3 of them are kids. Okay, we are now going to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
In regards to which item, sir?
CR&R, this one we just had.
No, sir.
Okay. IT?
No, sir.
Very good. We will close the public hearing. And I'll call for a motion on the first reading of the ordinance. I already have it, that Mayor Pro Tem Rab motions, second by Councilwoman Rogers. Please call a roll call vote.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Councilmember Corona?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Rab?
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 7 is our business items. 7A is workshop for the 2021-2029 housing element. This will be introduced by our planning manager, Mr. Kenneth Fung.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I've noticed that our council member, David Rabb, stepped out. Should we wait for him to come back?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Good evening again. At the June 8th, 2021 City Council meeting, the council requested an opportunity to more closely review the opportunity sites identified as allowing up to 30 units per acre. As a result of that request, staff prepared a key map showing the location of 8 sites generally located south of Nuevo Road and north of Ethenac Road. As part of your staff report package, this key map is provided in addition to a close-up area of the 8 individual areas. Staff will not go through those 8 sites, but have those extra areas for further discussion if you wish to discuss those in more details. Just for informational purposes, staff's consideration of these 8 sites go through these lists of factors. One is the site is within the downtown area, which the general planning and zoning allows 30 units per acre by right. This is just to clarify with an overlay. If they're outside the downtown specific plan, a lot of these parcels are already zoned MR14 or MR422, which allows 14 units to the acre or 22 units to the acre, so this would just add additional density. If they're in an undeveloped area, staff has been working with the development community. There have been interest in developing high-density residential development in some of these sites. Or if they're zoned single family, they are next to a higher density development. Or the sites are just near public transit, such as schools, parks, and other services, to make sure that these types of projects have services near them. I just wanted to mention that this is a zoning overlay, and it allows up to 30 units per acre. The developer or property owner does not have to build up to 30 units per acre. It just gives them the possibility if they wish to do so. The property owner has the right, if they really want to leave the underlying zoning, whether that's single family, multiple family, or residential. They can develop to the underlying density if they wish to do so. The reason for the 30 units, up to 30 units per acre, is because HCD has kind of determined that typically between 24 to 30 units per acre, that's kind of the range that typically most affordable housing projects makes it viable. And they're only viable typically through tax credit. So they typically are not buildable without tax credit. Just as an illustration, our affordable housing project in the downtown, the Mercado Affordable Housing Project, that's 24 units to the acre, and that's a family project. And then another illustration here is it's a senior housing community in Bueno Park, And this is a little over 30 units per acre, just to give you a sense of what 24 to 36 units per acre looks like. It's just in terms of how you design it, how you provide landscaping, buffering, putting the building away from single family or other uses that are sensitive. And just for informational purposes, this overlay will be brought back to the council after the housing element gets adopted, and then we'll work through some of those details of how those are actually implemented.
So while you're there, let me go back, let me ask real quick. The Mercado Park, you said that's 24 units per acre?
Correct.
How many units do they have there?
There is a total of 60.
So they have almost 3 full acres, if not more?
Correct.
Got it, thank you.
So the next step, just to get the housing element adopted and to go through this process, we just want to confirm with the council these sites that were selected, it's supported by the council, or if there's an alternative site, we need to kind of, you have to assist us to determine those locations so we can move forward, so that we can meet the adoption of the housing element within the timeframe necessary. Just for informational purposes, the adoption of housing element allows the city to pursue funding for housing development. It's also critical for our CDBG grant or home grant. So adoption of this document is critical for us to access these funding mechanisms. In conclusion, staff recommends that the council conduct a workshop to discuss the pertinent information related to the opportunity sites, which is up to 30 units per acre, for the 2021-2029 housing element, and to solicit any feedback from the public. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, so can you go back to the map that shows the zone you get? Yeah, the sites.
The 8 sites, okay. This is site 1, I'll go briefly. This is currently MR4 422. The property to the north is actually a future school site. Oh, the Overse, I'm sorry.
With all 8, yeah. That one.
I don't remember that. There it is. So, just for clarification, and these are all sites that already have the units on them? Some are vacant still?
Yes, they're pretty much vacant, except for the 4th Street Gateway.
Well, I mean, like the Green Valley specific plan, that it's not, that maybe it's technically vacant, but there's already a plan to make apartments there. I'm
Correct.
saying, are there any zones, any sites here that there is no plans at all? It's just a site you identified?
Only areas 5 and 6, there haven't been any discussion with developers come into the city asking for higher density.
Got it. So the Dale Street, for example, is that across from the park? Skydive Park?
On the one Dale Street, that's Patriot Park.
There's apartments across the street from Patriot Park?
No,
Or planned for?
there is a plan for a high-density development, but not at 30 units per acre.
Got it.
Is that the Corman Lake?
It's the one in between Murrieta and Wilson.
Correct, correct.
You know where the middle school empty lot is at?
Yeah, but it was Dan Lee that gave us that land. And he was gonna do a project there.
No, that's owned by Alex Muncio, developer, to what he's talking about. Council, anybody, Mayor Pro Tem Rabb has a question?
Yeah, it's just more of a general comment. I know we're not approving these, quick question. Today, we're not approving these specific sites. We're just starting the process of looking into potentially making them overlay sites.
We want to identify because the housing element wants you, because the housing element is more comprehensive now, they really want you to identify the sites, but you have an opportunity to come back and kind of develop the guidelines later on, but we really do want to select these sites because they want to be very specific.
Okay. And my general comments just would be for Site 6. I just don't think that is the best location for high-density housing. I know there's the Monument Park, Monument Ranch area, and that area. And then Site 1 as well, just based on my observations as a council person and a resident in Paris, those streets are pretty narrow, and I know to pack a lot of people into that area, it'll create a lot of traffic down Dale Street, a lot of traffic down Wilson, a lot of traffic in just that general vicinity. But the other areas, I think, you could make it work. That's just my personal comments. Thank you.
Well, if one is the site that I've been talking with and working with staff and a developer, that's Alex Muncio. Is that the same site we're talking about?
I believe so, yes.
So this guy, just so you know, Mayor Pro Tem, he's well into this program and he's trying to get a closed deal. So it's like, in other words, it's if the numbers come out right for him, it's going to happen. And I hear what you're saying too, but just putting that out there. Anybody else have any comments?
Yes, for site 7, it's part of the Green Valley plan, right?
Correct.
Isn't there already going to be multifamily housing in there?
For 7 to the left, the Green Valley developer is going to come back and do high density development because they want to increase the density. So there's plans for that. For the 7 to the east, which is next to the shopping center, the idea is that we could possibly build kind of like a mixed-use project. So we would do a density or overlay, so they want to come back. And like, if you go to the more urbanized area where you have kind of like this residential on top, commercial on the bottom, we just want to give them the opportunity to do that. And they're interested in doing that, just as an option. I just want to emphasize that this is an option, that a developer does not have to do this. It just
Okay.
creates some extra opportunity.
Yeah, but if we tell them if we give them the okay, we can't later on look at their plan and decide, you know what, I think it's better if we go back. It's very hard, right?
Yeah, but they would still have to meet some guideline. We would develop that guideline later on.
Okay.
And you have an opportunity to kind of.
So on the west side of zone number 7, as of right now, it's not high density.
No, it's not currently right now.
Okay, but there is going to be high density nearby.
Correct. Well, the developer wants to come back and do high density in area number 7 just because they got to meet the unit count requirements.
Okay, but now can't they just come back and request that later on their own, or does this have to be part of this?
They can do it on their own, but this is just to meet the housing element requirements. And this,
Okay.
the whole goal is to say that we're attempting to meet that obligation. We're giving people an opportunity to meet that obligation.
Okay. Now I do notice as well too that all these sites are on the south of Paris. Are there any other potential in the northern half?
The reason why they're not viable because of the airport runway. So everything north of the north of Nuevo Road is in the March Air Force runway, and there's typically a limitation of no more than 14 units per acre or even less. So that's why when we went through all these factors, we get to say everything had to be south of Nuevo Road.
Okay. And I do notice that I'm not sure exactly where the runway is for the Paris airport, but having higher buildings wouldn't impact their.
We kind of looked at this side. We had an overlay. We had assistance from WRCOG with a map, flood control. You had to choose sites that can be developable. You can't choose sites that's constrained by the airport, flooding, steep topography. You can't choose those sites because then they're not really viable.
Okay. And then with the site number 6, on the east of that is future plans for an industrial project, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then to the west of that is going to be another housing development as well, too, right?
There really has been very limited interest out in this area.
Okay, but as of right now, it's resident. So we're talking about like quarter-acre lots right now.
There are zoned for R10,000, which means they can do one lot per 10,000 square feet, approximately.
Okay, and do we have plenty of those lots here in Paris?
Most of the development are coming in at typically 6 to 7,000, or
Right.
we have
But-
a lot of
but-
P.
Yeah, but are there lots on that? Like, is there lots of sites that are residential 10,000?
Yes, there's quite a bit of lots that still are 10,000.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was looking at the maps.
I don't see anybody else on the queue. I believe we do have public comment, Madam Clerk. Is that correct?
For 7B.
Oh, okay, never mind. All right, well, if there are no more further comments,
So this is just.
Mr. Mayor?
If I may, Mayor, I just wanted to clarify. I believe for that area number 6, the industrial development is east of A Street. The area 7, the aerial, is off of River Road. Oh, area 6. Right, so it's River Road. Does it go all the way out to, I believe it goes out to Getz?
No, River Road is, the name changes for some reason, so.
Is that
it's still
A Street?
That's A Street, so north of
Got
Mapes
it,
is,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
So it's
Mr.
still
Mayor?
it's still on the west of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we actually do have a public comment from Miss Nanette Placentia over Zoom.
okay, Ms. Placencia, if you're on, you have the floor. You got 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes?
Okay, hi. I just wanted to make a comment off of what Council Member Corona brought up, which I thought was pretty good. How he said about if there's any development for homes coming soon to the north side of Paris. And I know that they made he had made a comment back saying that there isn't too much for that because for whatever reason he gave, but I felt that they're building so many warehouses around my neighborhood. Why couldn't there be more housing development instead? I mean, obviously, if they could build the warehouses all around us on the north side, then they must be able to build houses around us instead. And I just thought that would be a good option to do instead of filling up so much of the land that we have here around us, all our other homes that we have already here with warehouses. That was it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, what did you need from staff, from council? Do you need some direction?
We would just recommend if you confirm the sites and we can move forward and finalize the housing element and then submit it to HCD as the draft document so we can proceed with the process.
So, is there a roll call? Do you need a vote or we just need a consensus?
Just a consensus.
Okay, I'm fine. Anybody else?
Well, so going to that, I mean, some of them are okay, but I'm not. I want to get more information on some of the other sites, like specifically on site number 6, or I guess 7, the left, the east 7, I think it was. Go back to the. Yeah, I took it off. I took it off the map. Yeah, on site number 7, on the east side of 7, and then I guess on number 6 as well too.
What, maybe the clarification, I know, like.
Okay, so the issue I have is that there's already going to be multifamily housing there, and then we're gonna take away housing and then put in more multifamily housing, right? And then I think my goal, or I think the goal of most people is to eventually be a homeowner. Now, I totally understand that we do need more affordable housing, and I totally agree with that. I don't think there's anybody here that disagrees. But we're bringing in a lot of multifamily renter properties, and at the same time, we're taking away potential homeowner properties. Is that?
If I may, so the area number 7, That is within the Green Valley specific plan. And if you recall, we just finished approving 4 single-family home tracts. Now, just because we are this is an area that was identified as potentially being up to 30 units per acre. The developer can choose not to do 30 units per acre, but because we have to meet a certain number of units, we have to identify certain areas that have the possibility. Now, this doesn't mean they're entitled by right. They still need to come back for an entitlement to the council for that particular multifamily development. And that will be part of a specific plan amendment, and the council at the time can say, no, this is not the proper land use. Now, also keep in mind by directing staff to reconsider areas 6 and 7, staff is going to have to go back and look at other areas. We're going to have to shift those number of units somewhere else in the city. And these were the areas that had the best possibility to be able to accommodate that acreage. We have to hit that minimum number. What is it, Kenneth, 7,000?
7,800.
Right, so we're going to have to shift these units in other areas of the city. The other thing, as Kenneth mentioned, area number 7, we did take a look at the airport, the landing strip, and this area does comply and does not interfere with the airport, which is why you see they're clearly away from Getz Road. And we had to push those multifamily high density towards the east, away from the airport. So the direction we'd like to get is if the council feels that areas 6 and 7 are not appropriate, we would have to come back and come up with other areas that we'd have to find that are suitable to accommodate up to 30 units per acre.
Well, I think my question is on site number 7 is that I want to see the layout of how that's going to change the whole entire layout for the Green Valley project. And then to follow up on that, I know that you don't want to go more north because it's kind of limited. Have we looked into Harvest Landing?
Yes, we did, and that's because there's a limitation in that specific plan. If you had to update it, you have to go back to the Air Force Base, and the underlying designation out right now, if I recall correctly, is like 6 units per, although it's been approved in some section for 14 units per acre, but we overruled that document when we adopted the Harvest Landing specific plan.
So can we go back and look into that? Is that something to do?
We got an exception for the Harvest Landing specific plan. And what we'd have to do is go back to ALUC, and believe me, I know Rita was around, we went through a lengthy process with ALUC just to allow us to get what was already been approved.
I don't recommend that. I sit on the March JPA, and you're encroaching on the airbase. That is within the APZ zone, and we get numerous complaints from the Congress that they're going to shut this base down if you keep on trying to get zone changes. Because we can ultimately it's our city. We can say, well, we're going to build this, but you're creating encroachment issues, and that was a struggle to get the Barrett Apartments finally approved. That's going to be right behind the Jack in the Box. So yeah.
One last thing on Area 7. So tonight you are not approving 30 units per acre. We're just saying this is a location that has the possibility to accommodate up to 30 units per acre. However, Green Valley will be coming to the council with a specific plan that shows the proposal. Because of the time constraints, we have to have this plan approved sometime by the fall. No other city is coming up with any development plans. This is only to identify potential areas. So the plan will be coming back to the council, and at that time, council can make a decision in whether this is not you will have the details of the plan at that time. And you can very well recommend that, no, this is not the proper place for multifamily.
Okay, but you're leaving it open. This is time sensitive to get
Correct.
this now.
Yes.
We can't, that's why it's part of the reason why we're having this special meeting is to meet this element.
Right, correct.
I have a question, if I may. So for number 6, I know there's a large open field. Is there a reason why we limited it to just whatever is on the map? Could we possibly extend to add more?
Yes, I mean, it would be better if we added more. We're trying to meet just a little bit above that 7,800 so that we have some flexible room, but we can add more to that area if we
I
want
think
to.
there first more land.
More land,
More
yes.
land. Can you go to make the little hexagon or the little polygon larger?
Yes, you can make it larger.
So that's something to point out to my colleagues. If there's an issue with any other of these lands, and since we need to readjust and shift, and this is a Balamo area that's often hit with homelessness, wildfires, and there's actually a few shopping centers nearby, some local schools, which would benefit for walkability. So if there's any concern, if and in any other of these areas, number 6 probably has the option, as they confirmed, to expand that.
So eliminate one area and build that one out.
Yes, eliminate one area and build up number 6.
If it need be down the
If
road.
need be. Well, we're making that decision today, right? What the locations are. We need to get consensus on that.
Correct. We do need the consensus.
And we can certainly take that recommendation to possibly expand that number 6 into, I think if you go to the aerial, Kenneth, would be to the west.
It'd have to go to the west, yeah.
Right.
It's LI on the right. In the east.
And maybe potentially if we can remove Area 7 and make up for that over to the west of the highlighted area.
Which one is the location where it's by the Balamo area?
That's over off of Highway 74.
Is that one of the numbers I recall reading?
Yes, there's
Number
an area
3.
there. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm getting my two numbers confused. So I meant number 3. Are we able to, that was my fault. Are we able to expand on area 3?
Oh,
I'd agree on
there's an R10 behind it.
We could. I mean, this site has been, we've had some discussion with developer trying to do high density here.
Okay, this is the area I was referring to.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If I may, I'd agree with Councilwoman Nava regarding Area 3. That area has been a constant issue area with homelessness. I think in terms of walkability, it's the best area because you have those shopping centers, the schools, Highway 74, public transit. You could even walk down to the Metrolink if that's the ultimate goal. So I think extending Area 3 would be good. Can I also see the map for area, I think I walked out for Area 8. This is the downtown area. My only concern with the downtown area is I know a lot of the empty lots are good for high density. I would just be kind of leery on putting high density next to single-family homes. A good example of this, go down the 200th block of East 6th Street, the 300th block of East 6th Street, 1979, 1980. This council flooded that area with 2-story high-rises. So you had single-family homes, you have these 2-story duplexes, which were just magnets for crime in the late 80s, early 90s. If you go over to the 200th block of East 7th Street, 300th block of East 7th Street, you didn't really have that development. It's night and day in terms of the feel for the neighborhood. East 6th Street, 200th block, when you get a chance, go down to Paris Boulevard, walk from Paris Boulevard to G Street, loop back around, walk up 7th Street, and you'll see the difference between the two communities. So I'd be really leery on stacking those, like Malcolm Corona said, those renter properties versus people who own their property, take care of their property. So that's just my main concern.
Okay, well, we still need a consensus. Can you go, is there anybody, wants us to raise the thumb up if you're okay with this plan? I know you're not, Councilman
Well,
Corona.
I'm okay with probably the vast majority of it. It just I just still need more information on how that project, especially in Green Valley, is going to affect the overall layout of it.
Well,
If this is just a preliminary thing, and we could come back and say no, actually let's take that out, then I'm okay with that. But if this is
Just real quickly for the Green Valley area, the highlighted yellow, there is already an approved, we approved the multiple family at the bottom left of the yellow already.
It's 242 apartments.
Yes, and then on the north side, there's kind of like a cluster home community there already. So that does kind of blend in by giving that overlay.
right. So we did already approve it, but now we want to approve more.
I would say this is just
You're not
giving the
approving
option.
more, you're just giving an option of
Well,
more.
we're giving the option to do more, which essentially I think they're going to take it, right? So we're going to have, you know, what should have been more single-family housing is going to be a large concentration now of multifamily housing. Because the original Green Valley was supposed to be, you know, kind of a mixture here and there, but now you're going to get this whole area of multifamily housing. Right? And then so the people that bought the houses right there, they didn't buy the house knowing that. That's kind of my issue I have. I would have issues in my neighborhood if that happened to me. You know, and I totally understand the logic that we need more affordable housing, but you know, if I move in, I purchase a home, and then all of a sudden the layout's different from what I intended, I'm going to have issues with that.
Well, they surely didn't come up with these apartments overnight, the 242.
No.
So wouldn't that be something in the CCRs? I would have to think.
Are you referring to the apartments that have already been approved? That was under the specific plan, right? The ones that have already
Right.
been approved, and that's over to the south,
The two,
in the MFR areas?
no, I thought the 242 apartments was going into number 7, the one on the west side.
Yes, okay, we're talking
The
about
ones that
number-
Malcolm's, Councilman Corona is talking about, that area. 242 apartments that we approved.
Correct.
Okay, and that didn't happen overnight. That had to have been a plan from Green Valley. So
Correct.
my comment is that I'm not saying I know, I'm just saying I would assume that that's listed in the CCRs when people buy their homes, it's so that they know what's going on and what's being built in their area. Same as when I bought my home by the lake, they had to let me know about potential flooding. So this is disclosures, if you will.
Yes. They would all,
And I'm not saying you got to know that either, but I'm just saying I would assume it's disclosed in the CCRs.
yeah, and then we updated the PVC specific plan map so they know it's multiple family there.
In the reading, it notes that there should be a buffer between these high density and between homes and whatnot. So my question is it simple to tell which ones are mixed in or which ones have a good buffer in between housing at this point, or is it something we need to revisit?
Well, we have to kind of come up with some design guidelines once we come back with the overlay.
Okay.
And a lot of it is designed just as we did the Mercado apartment project. We kind of shifted all the density or the high portion of it towards the street.
Mm-hmm.
And so we work through those design issues, and most developers work with staff through those issues.
If I may, because we are asking for your input and direction, one of the things that we could get from the council tonight is direction to re-examine Area 7 and recommend shifting or reducing the amount of designated area and shifting some of these areas over to maybe possibly Area 3, taking a look at that opportunity. And we definitely try to see how many of these we can reallocate.
Can you bring the map up? Oh, never mind. All right, so the one that says SFR, the one, oh, that's what that stands for? Where are the 242 apartments that we approved?
It's
Right
at-
below the SFR?
It's at the MFR, just west
MFR?
of this.
Multiple family residents.
The MFR location, just the two MFR on the bottom of the screen.
That's where the 242 are
Correct.
going?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was up. Okay.
So for SFR stands for what?
It's just
Single
single
family.
family.
Oh, because
Residential.
it's zoned right now for single-family residential, okay. And then, so we're potentially deciding whether to change that to also be multifamily.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so, I know I.
I don't want to, not also, you're changing it to read to be,
To allow, correct.
oh, so it could be both?
It could be both. The developer can choose not to do all entirely 30 units per acre. They can do a combination of, and that'll be subject to your review at the time they come back with the actual design.
There you go. You good with that now, Councilman Corona?
I
You're
do
not
ha-
approving apartments, you're just,
I do have a feeling, though, if we give them the option, they're gonna take it.
but you can still say no at that point and, right?
It's, could we say no?
If we say no, we would have to, I think it'd be safer at this point if you'd like to reduce the amount of multifamily, and we can look at areas that we can reallocate some of these units elsewhere.
Yeah, because like,
Yes, you could say, no, correct,
yeah.
later down the road.
Which we could say no to other projects, but
Correct,
it's
yes.
very rare that that happens. So my concern with this particular location is that there's already a concentration of multifamily residential. So to add more to it, it'll just be a high density and what was intended to be single family residential.
Now, the other option is maybe focus the multifamily residential towards the east, closer to the EMWD area. Maybe not the frontage, but create some areas. So we can, or eliminate it entirely.
Why are there different are you just identifying that there's different APNs in that whole SFR part?
Yeah, just to give general information
So,
on what the existing
I'm not a
zoning-
mathematician here, but 30 units per acre, and you're saying this is 152 acres?
the total area of all the yellow highlights,
So both pieces?
both pieces. And it's kind of deceptive because this is such a large scale and you don't have a sense of how large this area is.
Well, 30 units times 152 acres is 4,560 units. If they went to the highest, you know.
Yeah, and you also consider streets. I mean, that eats up some of that density. So right, and then buffers design.
Okay, so we can go forward with this, still have another meeting down the road where we could change things before it even is being entitled by anybody. Is that true?
No, I think HUD wants you to kind of determine it now at this point, and then we'll work through the
All right,
design
so
issues.
why did staff wait till this minute to do this? We had a special, you're, it's like you're forcing this down here to the council. Like, we have to decide this now, and that we don't have, there's no more time for another meeting, correct?
There's very little time. We've, just for record, HCD has sent us new regulation, new guidelines, and they literally just gave us that information 2 months ago. So we've been kind of working against this guidelines that have.
Okay,
that
so
have
you're
been-
getting pressure on you. Okay, gotcha.
If I may, would it be fair to make the recommendation to look at areas where they're not next to single-family homes and have a really strong buffer, maybe concentrated more near commercial?
Yeah, if you
Can
give us
we
some
just-
general direction to say shift it this area, and you give us kind of the flexibility to kind of say we're gonna put it in this area, it gives us something to work with.
Right. So would it satisfy then to say then to put more of the land in Area 3, I believe it was, and just make sure that we don't have this concentration near homes, single-family homes? Is that the direction you could use from us today? And then you would decide specifically what areas based on that guidance?
Yes.
When does this have to go back to the government?
So, just the time frame, we have until February, but we need to take this back to council probably no later than November, early December, so that the HCD has an opportunity to review the document and certify it. And so,
You're telling us this is a time-sensitive issue in July for something that's due in February?
part of that is,
So HCD requires a preliminary review, and then we will have to do all the public hearings.
When is the preliminary review due?
I think it's at the end of the month. Is it, when do we need to submit it to HCD?
just in time, we can, the goal is to try to submit it by next month so that we can.
So we can bring it back July 27th.
All right, so here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna do what council's telling you, asking you guys to do, which is to change this area. You already have 242 apartments going into Green Valley. You need to move these two yellow boxes here somewhere else. They're indicating 3, they like 3. And then you're gonna have, Madam City Manager, a council briefing, where we can still do that during this pandemic, to give you direction or a consensus before that deadline of next month that you need to submit this. Because otherwise, we're gonna be here all night going back and forth with this. Fair enough? Council, you guys good?
Good, July 27th?
Good?
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, just to clarify, for Zone 7, we're talking about the east or the eastern area of Zone 7, not the area surrounding the Winco Shopping Center, right?
Councilman Corona? Would you compromise that?
I could compromise that. I think it kind of goes what Councilwoman Nava was saying, keep it around commercial. But I do also know another location is if we could at least look into Harvest Landing right behind the commercial area, just to look into it.
Now, that would be, just so that you know, it'd be difficult to even put that in the maps because there is a process. We have to go through ALUC.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Okay.
With ALUC. All right,
But we
so,
will look at the areas, from what I'm hearing, Area 7 and Area 6.
but 7 west, not the east one, just the
7
west
West,
side.
yes.
Move 7 west somewhere else, maybe into 3 area or 6, wherever you can put them. Then when you get that done, Madam
Yes.
City Manager, you call me back and we set up an emergency meet, or not, we'll just set up another briefing.
Sure.
And get this done before that. And then, yes,
Oh, I do have another question. With regarding this one, that C, that's for commercial, right? Is the option to change that to residential?
No, we'll leave the commercial alone.
Okay, okay.
We're just leaving we're just providing an
Okay.
option overlay.
Okay, because what concerned me it was highlighted in yellow. So that's kind of what concerned me.
Yeah.
But that's no housing's gonna go where that C's at, right?
No, there's opportunity, yes.
Oh, there is
Yes.
opportunity.
Oh, yes. So this represents that we are placing an overlay so that that has the possibility to be rezoned to multifamily.
Okay, but the one who owns that is not Harvest, right? I'm sorry, it's not
Green Valley.
Green Valley.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's not owned by Green Valley. But it gives, as I mentioned, it just gives people the option.
Okay. Because it's a prime location for future commercial. That's what I'm saying. And then I'm not sure if people would want to live there, seeing how the waste management water system is right next door. Sometimes on a windy day, it gets pretty bad.
all right, I think we got an agreement, so you have your homework to do.
Yes.
Also, as Councilwoman Rogers reminded me, we do have a meeting July 28th. 27th. I said the 27th. If you guys can be done by then, even better. We don't have to worry about doing a council briefing. Okay? You can get this done overnight. In fact, don't go
For
sleep tonight.
clarification, Area 6, I wasn't clear on that one. Would you
I
all-
heard 3 and 6.
7?
To move 7 west to look in the areas in 3 and 6, correct? Or
3.
just 3?
3, I misspoke with 6.
Oh, that's right.
And my-
That's right. She made a mistake.
Councilman Rab,
If you,
right?
I thought he wasn't happy with moving things in 6.
I would compromise 6, but I think there is room for 3 for growth. I think 7 is the one we want to decrease
Okay.
in terms of moving forward. And then my other concern that we can bring up later on was just Area 8 regarding stacking. Like you have a lot in downtown and there's single-family homes and you stack like a high density. There are areas in downtown, right over here, First, Second, Third Street between Paris Boulevard and G Street. It's a lot of like it's a weird area because there's probably like about 10 homes, like 2 apartment complexes, a bunch of like random commercial places, some industrial places. That I think would be a great area for high-density homes in terms of Zone 8. Because if you walk down there, and I'm telling everyone to walk down there during your lunch break or whatever, and you'll see, it's just like there's like 10 homes out there. So that would be a prime area. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so, when you do your homework, throw in some, an additional areas, more than what you need, so that this way we have some options, okay? Then we can come to close on this. All right?
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, item 7B is the workshop regarding the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as the ARPA of 2021. This will be introduced by Director of Finance, Mr. Ernie Reyna.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. So today we have before you the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. So the agenda for tonight, for this particular item, we're going to go over what is the ARPA, what is the American Rescue Plan Act. We'll talk about how much the city is actually going to be receiving for this plan. We'll talk about how funds can be spent. we'll talk about departmental recommendations based on what these departments believe that we can spend the money on. And then finally, we'll talk about some public recommendations because we did do a city poll. We'll talk about that, how the public would like us to see us spend those monies as well. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started with this particular meeting with this one here. So the American Rescue Plan Act, what is it? So most of you may know, back on March 11th, President Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan Act. And what it did is it allocated $350 billion for fiscal relief for states, counties, and cities like us. And so with that, they had this formula that they used based upon the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. The Department of Treasury figured out this formula to how we're going to get money to individual cities and individual municipalities like us. They used this formula to figure out how much to get, and so it took into account things like population estimates, poverty levels for the cities, housing-related variables, and census counts. So from that, they derived the city of Paris is to receive $22.1 million. And so that amount is to be received by the city over a period of two years. We did receive our first installment of about $11 million, a little bit more than a month ago, but a month and a half ago. So we did receive the first half of that. The second half is scheduled to be received next May. So we will receive that over a period of that 2 years. So even though that portion is received within the 2 years, that 22.1 was budgeted in the current budget we just had approved a couple of weeks ago. But the City Council has until December 31st, 2024 to make a decision and spend and allocate those monies by then. So it has to be all used up or appropriated by that time period. So you may be asking, how can we spend the funds? So that's what we're here for, to kind of decide how these monies are going to be used in what areas. So the Department of Treasury did provide some guidelines. They issued two particular bulletins, if you will. One was called the Interim Final Rule, which is this really thick, almost tax-like code that you have to decipher through to figure out what you can actually spend monies on. The other one are frequently asked questions, where they just kind of released information in a period of time and let you know what they thought could be used on. So from that, we were able to derive, okay, here are the categories that these monies can be used on. And so we kind of developed these four areas. And so the first area is called response, mitigation, and prevention. The second is promoting healthy childhood environments and building stronger communities. Both of these two we kind of categorize into what we call public health. And recently, this public health also included improvements to parks, which is great because there's a lot of areas of the parks that we could also improve on. The third area is also great because it's revenue loss recovery to the general fund. So we want to figure out what we could actually put back in the general fund that we lost due to COVID. And so that's going to be a significant number that we can talk about as well. And then finally, infrastructure. So they categorized three broad areas of infrastructure. They lumped water and sewer into one area, and then broadband or internet into another. So these are the four categories that we're going to talk about for potential use of the $22.1 million. So as I mentioned, the first two categories were specifically public health. And so when we talk about public health, what's included in there? So they were very generic in the interim final rule and the Department of Treasury of what that meant. They label it as like medical expenses, whether we pay for medical expenses of our residents or employees, whomever, it was just labeled generically as medical expenses. It also included behavioral health, but it included one big category called capital investments in public infrastructure. And as you'll see later on, that one actually kind of covers a skill center and that type of stuff, and we have that one in there, so that's kind of an important one as well. And then finally, another big item in there was responding to negative economic impact. So what that meant to the city, to our residents, to our employees, that's a big category as well. So we'll dive into that one and talk about what that meant as well. So in terms of being able to identify revenue loss in the general fund, what that meant. So it wasn't just a matter of taking a look at what we spent and figuring out, okay, this is what we lost. There was actually a very intricate, detailed formula that was put together by two agencies, one that I belong to, the California Society of Municipal Finance Officers, as well as the League of Cities. They put together the spreadsheet, said, here you go, figure it out. So we did as they said, put those numbers together, so we were able to come up with the dollar amount. And that dollar amount loss that the city experienced was near $4 million. So if the city were to act and put that money back, it would be received as revenue, and then back into the general fund to be used however we'd like from there. So that's pretty big information to go from there. And as it says there, this money can potentially be placed back in the general fund. The one thing we can't do is put it into our reserves. So if we take it in, we have to make sure we put it in the current year and expend it in the current year, just not in our reserves. And then finally, water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. pretty self-explanatory there. So it can be used to repair, some of the ailing water and sewer infrastructure that we have in the city on that side. And on the other side with internet broadband, it can be used to place faster internet streams throughout the city or cells that residents or city staff can use to jump on broadband for. So those are the broad categories, and that's kind of what they could be spent on. And so now we're going to shift gears and talk about departmental suggestions, potential uses that can be used here within the city. So first, we kind of brainstormed, and 5 departments came together and said, look, we think we have categories we could potentially use these monies on. So first up is our economic development department. And for these particular departments, we have each director and manager here. So if there's specific questions, they can answer those as well. So they came up with the listing. And so this first one here is replenish funds used for business assistance. So other programs actually helped pay for this business assistance. So we could actually replenish those funds that were used in the tune of about $800,000. That's an option there. We could program $200,000 into the small business assistance program. We could put $400,000 towards rent and mortgage assistance programs. Or here's a big one. We could actually put about $2.1 million for the budget gap due to construction cost increases that COVID caused. Now, we see that as a potential use because this one hadn't been done if it wasn't for COVID, and we feel like we could actually use that to complete the skill center, and so that amounts to $2.1 million. Now, this next one is in red. Homelessness services is in red because it wasn't originally included in your staff report and the worksheet. So since then, we've added a couple of new ideas that we could bring to you. And so this particular one is putting $500,000 towards homelessness services, which you'll see later on during the poll. That was actually one of the top categories as well. So when we talk about economic development, potential uses here is that they've identified about $4 million worth of use that can be used in any manner or form. So that's the first department that we have there. And I'll pause in case there's any questions.
That $4 million is different than the $4 million to replenish the general fund.
Correct. It's independent of that. So that was about 3.9, almost 4 million. So that was one area we could use it on. And it doesn't have to be that entire amount. The council can decide, let's just put 2 million there, $1 million there, whatever amount you want. This is very flexible in terms of the years you want it in and the dollars amount you like program. But this is independent of that dollar amount. So this is another suggested use of the funds. That's $4 million there. So next up is our Public Works Department. And so this covers the categories of water and sewer infrastructure. So that's how we were going to label these to ensure that they're proper use of those fundings. So our Public Works Director came up with a listing of areas that we talked about for not only sewer repairs, but also sewer maintenance. And so for the sewer repairs, he labeled them as Category 5, which means the most needed. And so they identified about $700,000 an area for sewer repairs that are most needed in the city. In addition, he identified another $110,000 in sewer maintenance that can be done. And when it comes to the 4th Street lift station, he noted that there's about $250,000 in repairs that could be used there as well. So all in all, another potential use is another $1 million here for public works type of items that fall under the water and sewer infrastructure.
For clarification and transparency, can you explain the lift station?
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know what that is.
Yeah, so Brian Hill, Public Works Director. Mayor and Council, yes, lift stations, we have 2 lift stations, one here on 4th Street and 4th and G, and then we have one on 7th Street that is just east of G Street. And so the sewer comes through these lift stations, cleans them out before they get over to EMWD to be treated. So it's just kind of a pass-through before it gets to EMWD. And so we had just completed work on the 7th Street lift station, had to replace the pumps. They're 25 years old, newly installed, and all the piping, and added a bypass valve to the 7th Street, and we need to do the same work at the 4th Street lift station.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any question?
So moving on, one of the other departments was information technology, and this falls under the category again of broadband, the installation of broadband throughout the city. And what this would be is a Wi-Fi broadband upgrade that would install 3 LTE sites. I don't know what LTE stands for, so Art, if you want to chime in on that one, you can. But what we're doing is this initial site would have 3 of them, and it would create a 10 gigabyte backbone with some server upgrades to provide faster internet for different places throughout the city. And so what we're looking at is a potential use of approximately $400,000 worth of funds to make this faster internet throughout the city. Oh, I do. Yes, sorry. It's just takes
That's okay.
400,000. I don't know what that says. Thank you.
400,000.
Yes, 400,000. I'm sorry. That's correct. So that is an incorrect amount on there. So it's 400,000. Next, my department calculated the backfilling loss of revenue, as we mentioned before, using the approved sheet that the 2 agencies put together for us, followed that order, and we came up to a total of $3,964,046 exact amount. So just shy under $4 million that can be used in any manner to put money back into the general fund. Next up is the big one, the big department, community services, where we're talking about mostly parks. And so what our director, Sabrina Chavez, did is that she split it up into 2 phases. Phase 1 being the first half of the $11 million that we could potentially get, and the second half on the second year. So that's what the phases indicate. They can be spent in however way, mixed and match, whatever you choose to do is how we can go. So I'm going to go through these just on bullet points, and we can talk about the dollar amounts. When you see the reds, they were either updated or new from what you saw on your original staff report. So one of the things that we looked at under the park improvements and just actually public health area was that early childhood classrooms. And so there's some renovations that can take place at the 227 offices right over there for about $500,000 that could be used for ARPA funds. There's some improvements at Paragon Park that total $2.6 million that can be used. Mercado Park has improvements, and this is updated from the first version you saw, and so now it's at $450,000. Rotary Park has some improvements totaling $70,000. Foss Field was just updated to be now $90,000 for improvements. Copper Creek has $5,000 in improvements it could take up. And Enchanted Hills Park has $625,000. This amount has been updated since your first version in the staff report. So all in total, just looking at this first phase under the $11 million we first received is about just shy under 4.4. So these are some improvements we can do to various parks.
So the Enchanted Hills, are you underfunded for that project?
Yes. Yes. We took out a lot of things out of there, but we're still $3 million over budget. But yeah.
In addition to removing, you're still under, and what is this 625 going to do?
Yes.
You're under 3 million.
Yes, good honorable mayor and members of the council. So for the Enchanted Hills project, as our Parks Committee members, Councilman Corona and Councilwoman Rogers mentioned, there were some items that we had to propose for future improvements. So what's included in this is the northern parking lot off of Metz Road. Currently, we have it designated as a temporary lot. We do have the main parking lot off of Weston Road, but because of budget constraints, currently it's temporary. So that's one of the items.
Oh, wait, what's temporary? The west one?
Off of Metz Road. It's a secondary parking lot. It will not be, currently will not be paved with asphalt, so it's just temporary
You'll have DG or rock or
crushed paste
something.
material,
So that's
correct.
Overflow.
Yes. Another item here, the splash pad feature, there was one element of that splash pad, which is like a rock tower, something for the toddlers. So that's one item that was kind of put as a future phase for development. So.
Okay, so we've got a lot to cover here. My question was, you're under budget by 3 million, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
What is this 625 going to do that you're adding now?
No.
If I may, this will cover items, and it's not under budget. We've been able to, we have the budget. We did pull funds from DIF for the park fees that we
So
collect.
we're not under budget no more?
We are not.
Okay.
However, we had to eliminate certain parts of the project to come in and within our budget.
And is
So-
that
and this
equal
would
to
cover those
625?
areas. Correct.
That's all I needed to hear. Thank you.
Yep.
You may carry on, Mr. Director.
Thank you. So that is phase one of the park improvements under community services. So we'll switch over to phase two. And again, these can be mixed and matched in any way. So there's no saying that it has to be in a certain order. These are just suggested uses of it. So under this phase two, as we're calling it, we have Paragon Park improvements of $2.2 million, and that's newly updated since your staff report was released. We have some Fossfield improvements of almost $500,000. We have Copper Creek improvement of $265,000. We have a new updated amount for New Banna Betty Park of $1.5 million. The Senior Center tenant improvements of $575,000. So in total, we broke these down again into phases. So the phase two subtotal is $5 million. So in total, the park improvements is about $9.5 million. The potential uses can be used on for ARPA funds. So I'll pause right here if there's a question.
Director Reyna, so if you could go back to the last slide real briefly. Paragon Park was already receiving that amount. Is that on top? So that's phase one, and then phase two is an additional amount?
Yes.
Okay.
So if we look at the phases as two phases of $11 million 1 year, $11 million, the suggested use was of that $11 million for Paragon Park, let's use $2.6 million in the first year, and in the second year, let's use another $2.2 million in the second year. So you would add the two total up, and that would be the total amount for Paragon Park.
Okay, great. Just from my personal perspective, our parks need improvements, and that's all great and fine. However, I would wish, my suggestion is to spread that and allocate that amongst various parks as well. I feel like this one park is specifically being targeted, and I feel like we should spread that around into
Paragon?
Paragon Park.
Can you jump to the next slide so we can see the other amount for Paragon?
Yeah, so we have 2.645 in the first one and 2,250,000 in the second.
What are, this is just a presentation like, right? We're not making any decisions right now.
That is correct, Mayor. Really, what we're trying to do here is to allocate a chunk of these funds to each department. Every time when we do have a specific project, but comments like Councilwoman Nava will be taken into consideration when we do come back with an actual project. But at this time, we can allocate a certain amount to park improvements, and then we can come back and prioritize what parks and how much.
No,
But,
and I 100% get that, but you're going to have to give us more than just Paragon Park, $2 million. You got to tell us what you're doing. It's going to come up to $5 million, not just a blanket check for $5,000. So you need to work on that one. Is there another, are we going to another department? The last one, and they want half of the money. So we're going to need a good itemize of what you're doing.
We only get
So,
$11 million for now.
Right, but their total phase one and two equals 11 million. So by the time the second round comes, is it 9 million?
9 million.
9 million. Or they should try to come under the half.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, just a quick question, since we're going by parks. Banna Beauty Park, that's the sliver of land by the senior center?
Yes, that's correct.
What would that entail in terms of the 1.5?
Currently, we have a concept plan to have it designed as a Zen garden for our senior centers, for our seniors.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And if I may, now, what you see before here, these are parks that are designated in qualified census tracts, because that's the eligibility. And, we looked at each park to identify some of these improvements. We got together with staff. And of course, certainly, this is just a list. Of course, we'd like to vet it through with our Parks and Recreation Committee to identify some of these priorities. So these are just some samples of improvements.
I appreciate that. I don't see nowhere in these phase one or two any mention on, what's the football field? Panther Park? Patriot Park.
Patriot Park, it's not identified in a qualified census tract. I know.
Would we be able to also,
Put money back in the general fund and take it from the general fund to Patriot Park.
There you have it.
There we go.
You hear that? Ernie?
Get that? Did you get
Is
that?
Is that, is it?
Director of Finance? Okay.
Yep.
So my point is, these folks have been, prior to me being a mayor here and some of us council, during my colleagues' tenure here, my understanding is they were promised a synthetic field down the road. That was just a temporary field. It looks like they have lighting that came from from a wrecking yard. I mean, they look like they're homemade lights. I mean, we need to, if you can have your team here, maybe focus on that one too as well. I think those kids deserve their upgrade after all these years, and and not to mention how well they're doing as a football
Yes,
team. So.
absolutely. And that's something our team has been discussing, especially now having the Morgan Park soccer field.
Right.
Then we'll have that as a secondary, but we'll come with the presentation and proposal with our Parks and Recreation Committee to support that organization.
And when you do, they'll come back to us as a whole.
Sure.
And you need to break it down so we see what
Absolutely.
not down to every screw and bolt, but at least an idea of what you're doing.
Okay, so, sorry.
Oh,
Do you have a
just
question?
one other suggestion. Sorry for, if we could, see if we could give some funding to the library area. I know that we contract out for the services, but in terms of the general landscaping, and even, we gave them, I think it was 25,000 last time, and I talked to the librarian, they were very appreciative of that money to not just buy physical books, but also just other services for the children and people that use the library. So we can also factor them into this consideration.
Okay. No problem. So that portion concludes departmental recommendations, and from there, we're going to switch over to the poll that we did for the residents and how we set that one up, because we wanted to hear from our residents of what they thought the funds could be spent on. So that poll was sent out, and it was closed as of yesterday. So we actually had 183 residents responding, which I understand is one of our higher responded polls in the city. So that's great. We did it both in English and Spanish. We had 178 people respond in English and 5 in Spanish. And they did have an opportunity to rank their priorities on these. And their responses were in line with what we're recommending in terms of the uses of the ARPA funds. And so we'll go over those and how they were ranked within the citizens. So when we talked about the public health category, we asked the residents to give us their opinion on what they thought could be used on. So 41% of those in the public health area thought that the funds best be used for capital investments in public facilities, i.e. the skill center, that type of thing. 35% said let's use it for providing behavioral health, and 24% said let's use it for assistance to households. Switching over to the what we call negative economic impact, we actually kind of broke that out with public health because this one had a lot to it, so we wanted to give some additional topics. I provided the top 4 answers on this one, and so what we had here, 22% of them in responding to this one actually said let's give some money towards servicing the needs of homelessness or addressing homelessness. 20% said let's use it on affordable housing. 18% said let's give some assistance to households, and 14% said let's use it on early learning services. We had just the general category of backfilling the loss in there. So of the 180 some residents that responded to the poll itself, 136 responded to this one and said, yes, let's use the money towards backfilling the general fund with those funds. And then finally, the last category was the infrastructure for water, sewer, and broadband. And so what we had here was almost an even split, a 60-40, saying 60% saying let's use it on the water and sewer, 40% saying let's use it on broadband. So that was the poll that we conducted that the residents were engaged on. So very happy to say that they responded on that one. So again, what we're looking for here is just some direction on how to use these funds. These were budgeted in the current year budget we just approved. It was split 2 years and left in kind of a generic fashion in the sense that it's in the special revenue fund, not programmed anywhere. So with the options we provided, we're kind of just looking for general direction of how the funds can be spent, keeping in mind that we don't have to spend half of it this year and half the next. We have about 3.5 years to expend the whole amount. So it can be programmed in any manner that you would like, using whatever formula for these type of programs we brought forward for you. And so that's what staff is looking for. So just $22 million, and we have 3.5 years to spend. So that concludes my presentation here. So if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to respond to those, and we'll go from there.
Ernie, can you go back to the IT page?
Sure. Oops. Did I pass? There you go.
Because those computers down there are not like the computers up here. And when I was sitting down there during that COVID, it was very, you couldn't follow the meeting.
These are all being updated already at the end of the month.
But are we going to be able to pay for it out of the funds?
Out of the broadband portion? I mean, we can look into that definitely and see if that's something.
Because we're
that's qualified use.
upgrading the system.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's vital for the staff that are sitting down there to have the same information that we as the council have up here. It was very difficult to follow the meeting while I was sitting there.
That was being done with not thinking of ARP, right?
That's correct, and I think our IT chief officers here, we have already allocated under the yearly budget, city's budget for these replacements. And again, going back to some of the costs that we can replenish the general fund, that can definitely come out of that, but it would have to just go back to the general fund. But that's already been budgeted, and Arturo Cervantes is here to elaborate.
I don't think he has to elaborate, but I mean, I clearly understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying, we already planned it and budgeted. Let's use this money for public purposes.
Yeah.
So I do have a question on this though. Are these broadband upgrades, are they for the city campus, or are they for our general public as a whole?
I believe it's for the general public as a whole, but I'll let Art answer those questions again.
It's actually, sorry, I'm a little shorter than you. It's actually for the whole.
I resemble that.
It's actually for the public, and we could actually set up as a private network, hooking it back to City Hall, or it could be for open citywide.
So it'd be like I could be at a grocery store parking lot and have Wi-Fi, or how's that
Yes,
work?
you have Wi-Fi, and it'd be either to a provider, or eventually the city will be providing the services to broadband and.
You're gonna do the whole city for $90,000.
No, we're actually going to do a
400,000.
portion of it.
Portion, thank
And
you.
test
You
it
said
and make sure-
citywide, so I wanted
Well,
to
actually, these
clarify
towers,
that.
I'm actually going to go check them out next week. They actually do cover about between 7 to 12 miles per site.
Wow.
So you probably could do the whole city eventually.
Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Well, if you had to buy a fourth one, then buy a fourth one in there.
Okay.
We could do that.
I mean, that's gonna benefit the community.
Yeah. No. I have seen this in other countries, I guess. And you know, you could kind of go to the square and you have their Wi-Fi,
You
but
have
they're very slow.
This actually is 5G network.
Oh.
They're 4G and 5G, and also the sites can be supported by a phone carrier like T-Mobile or AT&T and Verizon. They can add their own chip in there too.
Wow.
So there's a lot of potential. Besides that, we can also expand our camera systems. We can expand the Wi-Fi in certain areas. We can do a lot of things in the future with it.
Awesome. Paris Network, I love it. Anybody else have any questions?
No, this.
Where are we at? Are we done with your presentation?
My
We're at
presentation-
questions now, right?
Yeah, just questions.
Anybody else?
Yeah. So for the skills center, is that definitely qualifies, right?
Well, we believe it does. So we did inquire with the Department of Treasury on this one, and what they did is they sent back and said they will not answer that question directly. So they weren't much help to us. But looking at the qualifications, we believe that this would be covered just based on the wording of it, of what they provided to us and what we're going to use this for. We think that we can use the Skills Center, the ARPA funds on Skills Center to cover that gap.
Okay. And then when the residents brought up for the homelessness services, we already spend money with swag and stuff like that. So what would this entail?
I mean, it's pretty general, pretty broad, Claire.
One of the things, the ideas that came up with, and Michelle Logawa is here to I'll let her explain.
Hi, good evening. I'm shorter than you two, Mayor and council members. This $500,000 includes the 21-22 swag contract with an increase in the level of services, in addition to an estimate that we received in exploring an option to add a deputy to the current Riverside County Sheriff Homeless Outreach Services.
Oh,
team.
nice, nice.
And then the remaining of the $500,000 would be for assistance services, voucher programs that we currently run.
I think it's very crucial to have a deputy as part of the team. It's very important to have that, building that relationship between law enforcement and our homeless folks. Just to establish that relationship and trust is what's vital. And anyway, good job.
So I totally agree with that, but don't we already have POP for that?
Yeah, but
Would this be more of a specifically for homeless?
Let me reiterate what I'm saying as a former law enforcement officer. When you have a dedicated person for homelessness, that POP is there to work and handle specific problems. They're in there to go in there and take care of issues that we have in our city. To have a dedicated deputy specific for homeless, they're taking their time, just like SWAG does, to build those relationships to help those individuals. Am I kind of right on target, Chief? Thank you. Exactly. You know, it's a specialty. You want someone trained to just deal with that, because homeless, you're dealing with people that could be, have some mental issues, drug, you know the situation. You sit on the task force. It's, I see Madam City
Yes,
Manager
and-
wants to
Just like you
charm
mentioned,
in.
specialized team, what they call the HOT team. It's the Homeless Outreach Team. And this would assist, this deputy would assist our current, I believe it's Deputy Robles, who he's
Yes.
in the POP, but that's a problem-oriented policing. So they're spread thin. So this would be part of the HOT, one of the deputies in that.
It's good. That's really good. You good? You done?
Yeah, I'm good with that. So are you guys just taking recommendations? Because it looks like we got recommendations from staff, but.
We are. So and
Okay.
we're not pressed for time in the sense that we need to know now.
Okay.
Because we have 3.5 years. The money's already been budgeted. So it's a matter of just kind of deciding where to program these monies. So we're just bringing recommendations to the council from the department's perspectives and then the public's perspectives, which kind of align anyway. But we just provided these examples to be used in however way the council would feel, with whatever dollar amounts.
This
you
is a
wanna fund
starting
for.
block.
Starting block, correct.
Okay, so I'm all for improving some of the parks, but I do want to definitely get a breakdown of what they are in the next
And
meeting.
we do have that, so we can provide that to
Okay,
you. So we can. get
but
that
but
going.
you know when I think about this the recovery of our country and our city, I think about looking towards the future, and I think part of that is maybe education and skills training for our city as a whole. Is there anything in there? I know before we had the scholars program. Is that a possibility?
I think it falls under the public health realm, which is like job training, getting people back on their feet because of COVID. So giving them special skill sets.
that could be for
it's
that.
very generic in what they do specify, but it falls under that category. So that's kind of what the skill center is, and that's kind of what we're following, because I think the idea is also to have like a broadband internet cafe in there, which definitely fits that category of infrastructure as well, on top of the skill center and training and everything that goes with it. So we believe it could.
Okay, so we could. Okay, I'm not talking about the skill center, but that scholar program.
Scholar, right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm thinking about how people are going to have to go back to work, and one thing that I'm kind of hearing is the whole issue that people are now having to worry about childcare as well too. So I know that there was some I saw in one of these charts in there that there was something about maybe one of like the toddler programs, but is there anything in there that we could possibly look into for a child care program ran through our city or contract with somebody else for some of our residents who are trying to get back into the workforce?
Yeah, definitely. I know that childcare, in the sense, was included in there, again, in a broad category. So there's definitely something we can look at that I think could provide that type of services for parents that are looking to return back to work for their child. It's like child first learning or first learning services, something like that as well, under childcare as well. They're very broad, but I think they can fit into those categories.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, what I know that there's something in there for safety, which is good, but maybe we could look into, talk to law enforcement about including more of the cameras. If they've been successful, maybe we could kind of put more out there.
Okay. Definitely. Okay, we can look
And
at that.
I think that's about it that I kind of have. But I really wanted to improve the infrastructure, which includes parks.
Yes.
But I also want to get people kind of better trained, better educated.
Absolutely.
And
on their feet, and that's kind of
going
what
there.
this is.
Oh, and another question I had too.
Yeah.
With the rent and mortgage assistance program, didn't the governor already approve something for that?
Yes, that was part of the CARES Act, but we'll be running out of those funds in the shortly. So we would like to continue that program for the
Absolutely.
businesses and the homeowners and renters.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And just to clarify, sorry.
Okay,
if I
go
may.
ahead, Colin.
Since we're on this slide, replenish funds used for business assistance is for new businesses as well, right? That program is, if we were to go ahead and fund for that, this is for new businesses?
So this program, and I'm going to defer to Michelle, but I think the business assistance is something already that was set up, but it borrowed funds from certain places. But Michelle, can you?
Yes, for the business assistance program, the initial 800,000 current budget of the program was compiled
Can you move your
from-
microphone down?
was compiled from existing programs within the CDC budget plus 200,000 from the general fund. So this would reauthorize the funding of those programs that we essentially decreased or eliminated to create the business assistance program.
But
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken what you're asking,
Yes.
qualifications for those funds, your business had to have been open a year prior to COVID.
That is
Not
correct.
for a brand-new established business. Is
Correct.
that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
These funds don't specify that, but we can get clarification, and if we can assist, I think we can look into if it applies to help out new businesses. We can look into that, but that is correct. The CARES Act funds were for existing businesses
Right.
that were pre-COVID open.
Right.
But in these guidelines, it does not specify that it needed to be a business that was already in operation, so we can look into that. And if
As
we-
far as I remember from the reading, it's to replenish, to support new businesses as well, right? And, okay, just wanted to make sure that's available
Good
too.
We'll verify, but yeah, yep.
It's vague, it's government.
Yeah.
Anybody else? So we
Yeah.
can get- Yes.
I think it's very important that we use the money to replenish our general fund, because once it's in the general fund, we can use it at our discretion, even if it's not in the right census tract or it doesn't meet the criteria that these funds do, and gives us the option of utilizing it in the way that we see best fit. So I think that's very important, that we repay.
Okay, so moving on forward, I think it'd be good to, when you guys are ready to come back for another round, that we have a specific dedicated workshop just for this only, not tied in with anything else, so we're not, trying to rush through it. In addition to that, while you're scheduling that, well, this will probably come before that one, but I did mention to you, I want you to schedule a workshop for goals and expectations from us and our city manager. Specifically just that with the council and city manager and her team, senior management team, so. Okay, that is it on item 7. We are now moving on to item 8, which are adjournment. We appreciate everybody for being.
I'm sorry, Mayor, we do have public comment for 7B.
Yes, that's where I was going to. 7B. Public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, sir. Michelle Lewis?
Michelle, come on up. You got 10 seconds. I'm sorry, 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'm Michelle Lewis with the Paris Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm here to speak on behalf of our small businesses here in the city of Paris. I feel that the American Recovery Act Fund should be used in part to support small business through programs that help startups as well as established businesses to flourish and succeed. One way to support the economic growth is to establish a working partnership with the Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, to utilize their resources for our local businesses and create resources for businesses still recovering from COVID-19 shutdowns. As a member of the chamber, I can tell you, first and foremost, that there have been a lot of businesses out there that have been highly negatively impacted by this COVID pandemic. Some businesses have closed their doors for good. Other businesses are still trying to stay open. And some businesses just didn't open at all. They were just starting and they just didn't open at all. We need our small businesses here in this city because without these small businesses, our bigger businesses can't flourish. So, we at the Paris Valley Chamber are suggesting that these funds be used for our small businesses by creating resources for businesses. The Chamber has multiple programs to assist and support the local business community, like our business incubator that has been newly developed and is flourishing. our Shop Local, Shop Paris program, which is spotlighting various restaurants as well as small businesses within the community and posting them all over social media so that our community knows that they're still open. Also, with our farmers market, which is already assisting businesses to establish and flourish within this community. We would also like to see programs offering incentives for businesses and assistance for businesses to clean up neglected properties within the city. Incentives for selected businesses to open within the city of Paris and allow them to come in and provide our community with services, retail, as well as other resources within the community. And also to reestablish a facade improvement program for some of the older establishments within the community. We would like to see some of these funds being used for small businesses because it is so important for the city to have small business. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Appreciate your comments. Okay, that takes us to,
Mr. Mayor,
yes?
we have one comment on Zoom from a Nanette Placentia.
Okay. Lynette, you're on. Go ahead.
Thank you. I hope that this falls in the category of how you could use the money, but a couple ideas that I feel that would be best, put to use for our youth would be something on the lines where like a mental health sessions for the children, like a grievance counselors, especially for our youth who have been through so much this past year. They might have lost a loved one to the pandemic and they're grieving. So I think that maybe they're going to need a lot of counseling and grief counselors to help the youth. And I think that would be a great idea for them. Also, if they can go to recreational classes for the youth, have programs set up where they could go in the evening time to maybe a city building, and they could be able to take a class that's going to help them through like special programs like robotics, engineering, programming and coding so they can make video games, things along that line where they can have those kind of classes in the evening to get out of the home and start moving around and be able to get educated at the same time. And the last one, I think that would help residents, if our renters in our city could get some sort of funding where it can help with a down payment, that they could become homeowners. And I think that would help our city a lot if a lot of our renters here in our city are able to actually become homeowners in the same city that they've been growing up in or renting already and they want to stay. They should be able to have the opportunity to own a home here. And I think maybe that money would help assisting them as for down payment to be able to get that help. And that was it. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Placencia. Appreciate your comments. Anybody else? Come on up.
Hi, good evening, everyone, Mayor Vargas and all the city council members. I just have a question with the parks, the money, the funds for allocation. Is a community swimming pool included in any of that?
You can ask the gentleman, or young lady behind you. They'll be able to talk to you about that.
No, it's not included.
You can talk to her personally. This is not Q&A. Okay, anybody else? Come on up, sir. Yes, come on up.
Hello, my name is Gerald Katz. I live at 23139 Gertrude Avenue. I'm a little bit out of the border, but this is my city for more than 30 years. The city has done so much with the community gardens, and I've been working on environment, and basically energy, but food is so vital, and I've been following what Riverside's been doing on setting up an area where they've stopped growth and encouraged farming. This is probably more a county issue, but it's so hard to get something going with the county. I thought I'd come up here where you really care about the people and you care about food and you understand health, food, physical motion is part of health. It's not just getting doctors, which is vital, but when I see people, I've been going a lot where there are community gardens, where there are permaculture building, and what growing food does for people. It's not only the food, but the work and being in the earth. It just revitalizes people, revitalizes the earth. So a thing Riverside's done has been the food hub. If you've heard about that, the schools started it. They wanted good food for the kids. They went to a big farmers meeting, a Grow Riverside meeting, and said, do you want to grow things? We are buying it. And they set up a program where so many of the local, especially organic farmers would know what the schools wanted. They would grow it. It would be delivered to the food hub where it'd be processed a bit, sorted, and delivered to the schools. And then the hospital said, Kaiser said, can we get in on it? Senior programs. And that's down in Riverside. They've made Victoria, instead of just houses everywhere, there are gardens, groves, orchards, and it's just, so beautiful. And I think Paris, the city's full, but that area out there, people are growing things, but it's not necessarily that good. And if they could get into growing real good food, teaching people how to produce food, getting the young kids out there, tech is wonderful, but a lot of people aren't real technical. And so, even tech people, I know people who are brilliant, PhD, they get into the garden, they live. And so I'm hoping that maybe we could talk to the county, health departments, get something going with the city, working with the county. See, I worked with Colton, I worked with Riverside, and they don't want to do things with other people. Paris knows, you work with the county, you work with the schools, you're not all separate. And so maybe get something going, talk to the county, talk to other agencies, talk to the local growers, and we could be part of an integrated thing of producing more food, employing people who, getting people's jobs, even land. The people are getting land now, growing other things than certain things, and providing food, good jobs, and improving the environment and our health. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to close the public comment for item 7, and we are now moving on to item 8, which is our adjournment. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Have a pleasant evening, and we will see you back on July 27th for our next regular council meeting.